Hello. Today we visit a r/AskReddit post to ask what is a scary, unsettling fact about you. Make sure to stay until the end of the video as this thread is wild. One post will be I wipe back to front and the next one will be a long serious story about someone getting brutally harassed and assaulted for years. Also make sure to comment a fun fact about you down below. It does not have to be a disturbing one. With that, sit back and enjoy. I pooped in my neighbor's backyard when I was 8 years old. Just gargoyled under his jungle gym and let loose. This is the first I've talked about it in over 20 years. I killed someone in self-defense, went through the entire court process with his family sobbing hysterically and never felt a single emotion about it, and I'm a pretty emotional guy. If you're okay with sharing, what caused you to act in self-defense? Attempted carjacking in East St. Louis. I was picking up my 6-year-old daughter from dance. Had my window down at a stoplight, at night, and was hit in the mouth, side of face by a young man and his firearm and pulled out of my car. The work I do requires me to be armed and I had just gotten off shift. I put 6 rounds into the driver door as he closed it and pulled him out. If my daughter hadn't been in the back I would have just let it go. He was 17 and from a very poor area, I don't fault him. Sounds like you were justified in your actions to protect yourself and your child. I think the typical sense of guilt or sadness someone might feel for ending a life got overshadowed by the knowledge that by doing so, you protected yourself and your daughter. That is the conclusion I've reached from my work-ordered therapy. Not sure if it's scary? But my dad OD'd on heroin and died. I probably could have saved him. I went downstairs at like 1 a.m. to get a drink and saw the bathroom door closed with the light on. I thought about pounding on the door to scare him, which is something I would do to mess with him. I walked up to the door, went to knock on it but thought to myself, nah, don't mess with him. And I walked away. Woke up later finding out he was dead from an OD. It's not your fault. You didn't know he was overdosing in there. Thank you. This happened 15 years ago, but it still crosses my mind sometimes. A third of my body is covered in burn scars. A very decent young man that worked for me, and who I consider a dear friend, went off to college and was doing some side work. He was burning brush and he fell into the burn pit where he also received burns across 70% of his body. He was fortunate however as he was sent to the U.S. military burn unit in San Antonio, Texas where they were able to provide him with the best burn care in the world. It was still a very painful and traumatic experience and expensive, as his dad told me that some of the bandages were $2,000 per bandage, and had to be replaced daily. He was able to finish his degree and went on to get his master's, but he will not go out in public without a long-sleeve shirt or wear shorts. I asked him if he thought he would ever lose the self-consciousness of the scars and he said that maybe one day he hoped he would, but that he isn't there yet. I have unusually good night vision, extra cones, rods. I forget which is for low light, which means I walk around in what other people consider complete darkness, able to see just fine. Add on to that I'm 6 feet 10 inches and very large, basically a cryptid. You could single-handedly stoke interest in Bigfoot again, if you're committed to night walks. I used to dream of making some kind of suit and trying to get a cryptid legend going in my area. But I'm fairly certain I'd just get shot by some Jethro who wants to sell the carcass to the Discovery Channel. A random guy in a bar bit part of my ear off. I can ignore being tickled. Same. Annoys my wife and children to no end. Because I'm an excellent counter-tickler. My wife told me she wasn't ticklish and I ended up finding a spot she didn't know about and she peed herself. Our puppy was so confused cuz I just disciplined for peeing on the carpet and she did it right after and just tilted her head like what the duck. I've ripped a mont's ear off with my teeth. Do you and you/ghostwriter_119 need to have a talk? Do you have my ear? Sorry man, needed a snack and it was the closest thing nearby. I have been told I'm a snack, haha. This is a weird one but I promise you, no bullshit. I had a metal screw, bolt roughly 1.5 inches long stuck in my right lung from age 2 to 17. I must have put it in my mouth as a toddler and it got there somehow. Anyway, the unsettling bit is that I always knew there was something seriously wrong with my body, because my whole life I would have instances in which I coughed uncontrollably, many times coughing up blood. Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. But I never told anyone. Dad was neglectful and mom was always working, so it was relatively easy to hide. If it happened at school, I'd excuse myself to the restroom until it stopped. No one ever showed concern those 15 years, so I guess I kept it to myself well enough. I never told anyone, because even as a small child I was very unhappy with life and wanted it to be over. I guess I figured my mystery illness would get me eventually, so I kept it a secret so I wouldn't get treated. It all came to a head at 17 when playing ball at the park with my parents, siblings, and some friends. I got a decent hit and ran around the bases when I started coughing. After sitting back down, I tried to hold it in, but I couldn't, and this time it was too bloody to hide and no bathroom to go to. So my step-uncle noticed after a minute or two. Everyone is crowded around me while I'm coughing up a shitload of blood in and around a trash can. My little brother told me after that they actually sent guys in hazmat suits to clean it up because they didn't know if whatever was wrong with me was contagious. But anyway, got to the hospital, got the x-ray which showed the screw lit up like Christmas imposed over my rib cage. Dr. Guy just went, "Well, there's your problem." I guess he was trying to lighten the mood since everyone was understandably freaking the duck out. 2 weeks of surgery, 3 total, and it was out. I still have breathing issues, but the cough is gone now. I made the screw into a necklace which I wear sometimes because I find it oddly comforting to be reminded of my own mortality. I know that's weird, but it's just sort of how I am, all things considered. I never told my family I knew there was something wrong with me, because telling them would mean admitting to them that I wanted to die the whole time. I still struggle with mental health crap for this and many other reasons I won't get into, but things are a lot easier than they used to be. But anyway, if you actually took the time to read about my weird little life, I appreciate your time and hope your day is pleasant. Growing up, I had a recurring nightmare set in my grandparents' backyard looking at the back of their house. There was just something off about the house. Something mildly sinister. I dreamt this over and over, many times over the years. In 2018, my dad, who now owned the house, went into the backyard to that spot and killed himself. I haven't had the backyard dream since. I constantly think about leaving my current life behind and just living alone somewhere remote where no one knows I exist. Odd thing is, I have a really good happy life and I'd never do it, but I think about it constantly. Me too. Like running away and completely changing everything. And never talking to anyone I currently know ever again. I did something similar 25 years ago. It was wild. For some reason life worked out. Met someone. We went rural together and loved. Been back in the city for 2 years. Been difficult. We're going back in 3 years. For good. I'm no longer a people person. I miss nature. From ages 6 to 14, I spent all of my time in a pitch black, cold and locked basement, only leaving for school and never letting anyone outside the family know. I need background information on this, why and why. Where to start? When I was 6, my sister, 16, and I discovered that my dad, violent, abusive, was ducking my mom's sister. My dad proceeded to punch out my mom, when she found out, knocking out some of her teeth. I made the mistake of reporting the event to my teachers the next day. Police go to my dad's work. Dad comes home, pissed off at me for shaming the family. Proceeds to strangle me into unconsciousness. Wake up in the basement, told I can come out when I learn to respect my dad. My only company was a Bible and some school books. I read the Bible every day and prayed for the abuse to stop. Not once did God answer. I had 6 toes on each foot at birth and got them cut off. You can see the place they cut them at. Look how they massacred my boy. They robbed you of the ability to run 20% faster. Not really scary or unsettling, but I do end up having to explain without trying to get into details to people. Why? I refuse to drink from any kind of retail item that is not translucent. For example, soda, beer cans, milk, OJ cartons, etc. People's curiosity compels them to ask me why when I tell them to let it be, and assuredly enough they never like the answer. I had dead mouse parts slide down my throat chugging a beer on a golf course. My dad always poured his beer from a glass bottle into a short glass. He once spat out a finger. I have an enlarged aortic root. It's very unlikely, but it could spontaneously rupture, leading to the medical term adjusts glasses. Instantaneous death. I would pass out, bleed to death, and then fall over. Dead before hitting the ground. And it could happen at any time. My wife is very uncomfortable thinking about it. I'm a physician. If you're not being followed by a vascular surgeon, you should be. They're supposed to ultrasound it at regular intervals and do a prophylactic surgery. Sometimes can be done just through a catheter, with a graft if it does get too large. If it spontaneously ruptures, you do still have a chance of survival if you live near a hospital with cardiothoracic surgery. I've seen it done in person. I do not actually remember a decent chunk of my life. Whenever I talk about most of my childhood, I use words that leave room for mistakes, and I am generally using memories and ideas I've compiled from hearing other people say things about me. There is actually a large chunks of facts about myself that I only think I know, and don't have personal confirmation of. Yeah, I have the same problem. I think my brain is just trying to save me from the trauma. I remember a lot of the trauma, but by now it is slivers of a memory. It's all just fractions of my childhood. I have people constantly ask me if I remember this or that, and I am a deer in the headlights. I sometimes forget what happened a few days ago. I have 2 lenses in my right eye, so it focuses like binoculars. My doctor wrote a paper about it. Mostly blinded as a baby in my left eye. Doctor suspected my right lens split, then healed as 2 distinct lenses. Better than 20/20 vision in my right eye. Got E. coli poisoning at age 3 and was about to die. Slept for 3 whole ass days after 8 days of bleeding in and out and operations and such. Fact ain't really scary or nothing, but I can never get E. coli poisoning again. I'm immune. Edit. Forgot to say, there's also a news article about me, but I probably won't be sharing because of info people on the internet shouldn't have access to. One of my testicles tried to murder me. My brain tried to murder me, but it's a pathetic piece of shit, and all it could manage was a single seizure like 8 years ago. Been antagonizing it ever since, but it's just a docile lazy bastard now. Like an old dog. I murdered my twin brother, and 20 years later he tried to murder me as cancer in my chest. True story. My mom always tried putting that weird, "you killed your twin" guilt trip on me, too. Last time, I just said, "You couldn't handle me, how would you handle 2 of me?" I inherited a lot of money from my grandmother about 2 years ago that no one in my family knew existed. I still don't know where it came from, her lawyer wouldn't tell me, but it's in the upper 7 figures. My father, her son, got the flat she owned, and we all thought that was everything she had. Apparently it wasn't, but I haven't told anyone about it, and I don't plan on doing so either. I just work a normal 8 to 5 desk job, rent a flat downtown of the city I live in, nothing expensive, and live a normal life on my own. No partner or children, no expensive vacations, I don't even have a car. Lol. I just don't feel comfortable sharing this secret, and the longer I keep it the stranger it would get telling it. TLDR, I'm a millionaire because my grandmother died and no one knows about it. Don't ever tell them. It will ruin any relationship you have with your relatives. I'm a bilingual illiterate. Can't read in 2 languages. I met someone who went to college while being illiterate. Fascinating woman and fascinating story. She got accepted to college out of high school, then went blind over summer break from a health issue, but was already accepted and such. The college worked with her, but she wanted to do science. Sadly, they didn't know how to teach a blind person science. I met her when I was in college, and she was going back to college now because society has learned how to teach blind people science. I have never met a better birdwatcher in my life, and she was part of or created a bird watching for the blind group. I went to a GP in agonizing pain. I vomited around 20 to 30 times consecutively on their restroom floor. I was told it was a UTI. Recovered a little. Next day was in more pain, and after seeing a couple doctors, I was rushed to the hospital for emergency operation on a testicular torsion. I ended up losing 1 testicle. Spent the night there before returning home. 1 day later I met the love of my life and never looked back since. But that 2 days of pain was something nobody should have to go through. With that, thank you for watching all the way until the end, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment any fun facts about you down below. If you want to continue to watch my content, click one of the videos above. Until next time.